Hi, this is Lori, and this is my homework for Paul McWhorter's Pico W course, lesson number 30. In this lesson, Paul taught us how to use APIs and how to get the data from APIs in the JSON format, manipulate that data. And he asked us as a homework to do a project where we found an API that we thought was interesting, get the data from that API on a regular basis, and have something happen on our Pico. Maybe a light going on, or sound, or printing something to a screen, maybe having a weather station, perhaps getting the weather from an API that has weather information, or earthquakes, I think was another one he suggested, which sounded pretty interesting. But I chose to work with an API that I've been doing on my own channel called Cheerlights. So here's the web page that describes the Cheerlights project, and it's an Internet of Things project where lights all around the world are synchronized to a specific color. And the color is set by anyone using a Discord or Mastodon, I think. You used to be able to set it with Twitter, but Twitter turned off the API to everybody, so I guess you have to pay for that now. So now you do it with Discord or Mastodon. And you can change the color to a specific set of colors that they have. And everyone who has a project connected, their lights will all change to that color. And I thought that was pretty fun and interesting. And I did a little project on my own channel with that, pretty simple one, where we just looked at what was the last color and changed our RGB LED to that color. So I thought I would extend this because the API has more information in it. In fact, it has I think 100 of the last color changes. And I thought it'd be fun to use one of my new NeoPixel rings to not only show the current color on an RGB LED, but then on my NeoPixel ring, and I think I have 16 NeoPixels on it, change those to the past 16 color changes, so we can kind of see the history of the Cheerlights color changes. So, and it also gave me a chance to play around with a little more data in that API. So that's what I did for the homework, and now we'll go on to look at the code and see how everything works. So first is just understanding what data you get from the API. And so I'm on the Learn page here for the Cheerlights project. You see it's just cheerlights.com, so if you want to go take a look at it, it's kind of a fun thing to look at. And it talks about the Cheerlights ThingSpeak channel, and there's an API here that you can read the data, and there's all different ways. There's a lot you can play around with. Someday I want to work with MQTT. So that might be coming up. And here you can see, here you can get the last color name in a JSON format. You can get it in the hex value for the color here, and that's what I did in my first project on my own channel. And then I looked at this full Cheerlights feed initially, and I decided that was a little too complicated for a beginning project, so I didn't do anything with that. But if we take a look at it, I'll just click on it. It shows you what it looks like. And it's a lot of text. And it's just like what Paul showed us in the homework. You kind of have to just look very carefully, and you can see it starts out as a dictionary, and then you kind of come along, and eventually you see that feeds is one of the keywords in the dictionary, and then from that you have a list of dictionaries that have all the last 100 changes of the color, and you can get the time. You can see here the field will tell you the color in text, but it'll also tell you the color in hex, and so forth. So it just has the last 100 in there, and it turns out that the most current one is the last one on the list, so the 100th one in the list, and that'll give you the last color. So right now the last color was orange, and again here's the hex code. So a little bit of work to do. We'll have to take this hex code and turn it into an RGB code for us, and manipulate this whole feed data set here. So I thought this was a good one to practice some of the things that Paul taught us. So I just thought I'd show the layout I have going here. Took myself off the camera because I just don't have enough space to do this, but here you can see I have an RGB LED connected up to the Pico. And this is going to show the current color for the cheer lights. I still have my OLED display, and I'm going to put some information. It'll tell us the current color in text, and it'll also tell us the RGB code for that current color. And then here's my NeoPixel ring. I know we haven't done this in class, but I just have a library to use this NeoPixel ring. And you see I have them numbered, so this is the previous, number 1 is the previous color, then the next previous, and so forth, and goes back to 16. So it kind of goes around like this. So 16th is the oldest one I'm showing, and 1 is the previous one. So that's how I have it all set up, just connected in, and that's my project. So the first program I'm going to show is just interacting with the CheerLights API. So we'll import the needed modules, and then I created a function to do the connection to the Wi-Fi. So I just put together all the code that Paul has shown us to do a connection all into a neat and tidy function. And out of that function, we'll return the IP address. So if we want to assign that in our code, we can use the function to do that as well. Then I needed to make a function to change the hex color format into an RGB color format. And so the hex value is as we get it, is a text string, has a hash at the beginning. The first 2 digits give the hex value for red, second 2 are green, and the last 2 are blue. So we just need to convert those hex values into integers and assign them to the red, green, and blue. Then I'll just put them into a tuple and return that out of the function. And here's just the main code. I'm starting to interact with the API. We'll connect. We'll request that feed data from the CheerLights API and assign that to CheerLights. Then the first thing I'm going to do is just see how many changes are there. So we'll ask for the length of that feeds list. And it turns out that there seems to always be 100, but I've decided to code it so in case it doesn't always end up being 100, my code will still work. And then you can pull out the dictionary for the oldest color by looking at the 0 position of that feeds list. Then if you want the current color, well, you need to go to the end of the list and grab that one. So that would be the length of that list minus 1, getting the 99th position. And then here's the previous color and the next previous color, which is what we're going to use to get onto our NeoPixel ring. And then we really don't want the whole dictionary. We do want to get specific fields in our code for the project. So I just thought I'd put a little code in here to test out doing things like that. So first we'll print out the hex color, and we'll print out, we'll use our function to get the RGB for that hex. So we're getting the current color, that's the hex field, and then I'm going to change it into an RGB and print that all out. And then we'll also grab the current color as text because that's in field 1. All right, it's time to run this. So let's go ahead and give it a run. We're connected. Now you can see we got all the text. There's 100 fields. And here's the dictionary for the oldest color change. So that happened to be pink. And the current color is yellow. And the previous was orange and blue. And here you can see for the current color yellow, this is the hex code for that. And here's the color in RGB format. And there's the text, yellow. So we have all the pieces we need now to make this project go. So now we'll just quickly go through the code for the project. A lot of modules are needed for this project, all the things we've been using to connect, and create servers and so forth, but they'll also need to control the RGB LED. And this time I decided to use the Pico 0 library. It's really simple. So I installed that from the tools menu and used that. That's a really good library, and I recommend taking a look at that. It's a little easier to use than doing it the way we have been doing it in the class. Then I need a library for my NeoPixel ring, and we'll need some things from the machine library, and we'll need, I'm going to use the display, so we'll go ahead and load that as well. And you can see the setup of the RGB LED is pretty simple. You just tell it the pins that are connected here using the Pico 0 library. And then now I'm setting up my NeoPixel ring, and this, this looks pretty simple. You tell it how many you have, 16, then you set up an object for that. and you need to give the order that that particular NeoPixel is set up. So it actually runs green, red, blue, and W. And actually we can control the sort of the white that shows. I don't use the white, so you don't have to give a value for that. It'll just leave that off. And then you can change the strip brightness as well. So I only have it at about 25% of what it could be. Set up the OLED screen, as we've been doing. And then, as I explained already, the connect function and the hex function. So now we're up to connecting, and I'm going to store that in server IP, so that's the IP address. And I'm going to print that on the display as we did in the last homework. Then in my try and accept loop, which I had in there when I was running it off of my PC. I guess try and accept doesn't really help you when you're running independent, but I had that in there for stopping and starting things as I was getting the code going. So in the while true loop, I'm just going to clear out the screen, and I put this in here just so I know that it was checking. So it's going to loop through, and it's going to keep checking that feed and getting a new set of feed data every, in this case, every 60 seconds. But probably if I were to turn this on and leave it running in my lab just to enjoy the cheer lights and stay connected 24/7, I would switch it back to something more like 5 minutes or 10 minutes because typically the color doesn't change very often. It changes maybe every 10 minutes, 15 minutes, sometimes even several hours. But then occasionally, like this morning, people were playing with it and it was changing every 5 seconds, it seemed like. And I was a little surprised at that. So anyways, you have to decide. You don't want to ping it too often, but just for the demonstration, I'm going to ping it every 60 seconds. So then we're going to get the cheer lights. We're going to get the current color, and we're going to, and you can see I'm converting it right here, and then I'm going to set that to, I'm going to set the RGB to the current color. So that's the pixel, the Pico Zero, I should say, Pico Zero library, and that's how I would set the color of the RGB using the Pico Zero library. And then to turn on the past 16 colors for the NeoPixel ring, I'm going to loop through 0 to 15 and light each of the pixels. So I'm grabbing, we'll slide this over a little bit. I'm grabbing each one in order here, so that's why there's a little eye here. And then I'm setting each pixel to the value that I get. So converting it and setting it. So, and then once we do all 16 pixels, we'll show that on the ring itself. It's kind of like the OLED. You set it up and then you show it. And let's print to our OLED the current color, and we'll get the text value for that. And I converted that to uppercase. And then I'm showing the red, green, and blue values, because I have found a few of the colors that the cheer lights use don't look really great on my RGB LED. So like pink doesn't really look pink. And then there's something called Old Lace. And so there's a few colors that I don't think look particularly good. And I have thought maybe you could, when you see the color come through, you could fine tune and put your own RGB values by creating maybe a little dictionary so that you get the colors you want on your RGB or your NeoPixels. You can adjust that, but I need to get this homework done, so I decided to quit messing with that. And then you can see that we'll check every 60 seconds, but I wouldn't recommend doing that, constantly. And well, if I'm running off of my PC, then I could clear everything out so I can try again. So now I'll go ahead and plug it into my USB power bank. So I'll be back just a second as I plug it in. So there we go. Hopefully I won't move it too much. So I plug it in. There, it's in now. I think everything's still in the view. All right, there we go. We can see it. Yeah, it's checking. There we go. There's the first color, magenta, the current color, I should say. And then we can see that looks like it's been purple or magenta several times. It doesn't show real well on the screen, unfortunately, but you can see actually from 8 to 16, somebody's been playing around with white and pink, and and it just shows up like a bright white on my NeoPixel and on my RGB LED. So that was where I started to think, well, maybe I would intervene, and when I see, pink come across, I could fine tune and put my own RGB values in for pink rather than the hex code that they're passing in the feed. But yeah, you can see some of the colors. All right, so what I thought I would do is I'm going to try to pull up next show on Discord changing the color, and hopefully we can see it. You can see now 60 seconds have gone by and it's checking to see if the color has changed. Probably hasn't. Probably still be magenta, but we'll see. Yep, still magenta. Okay, I think I've got the screen set up so that we can see Discord and the project, and I'm on Discord here, and Cheerlights has its own channel that you can join, and you can find out about how to do that on that cheerlights.com website. So I'm going to get over to that. And down here, if I want to change the color, I type / and then cheer. You can see, Cheerlights. I can just pick that. It has a little bot. If you press return, then you can either get the color, so we can get the color, tell us it's magenta. Now if I go, and this time I want to go and set the color, then I can set the color. And here's all the colors you can choose from. And I'm going to set it to something I know will show up pretty well. So let's try blue. And we'll set that. All right, so that's done. And now it does take a while for that to happen. Okay, it's checking now. And it turned to blue. Yay! It worked. Awesome. Okay, well, that's my homework, and I know it was a long one, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope some people discover the fun of Cheerlights through this homework. Thanks for watching.